The story begins with Takaya running away from a couple of monsters who are after him. Just when they are about to attack, something blows them away, and it turns out to be Takaya's class president. Following that, he walks towards the camp where all his other classmates are present and gets told to process the wild boar meat, as that's the only thing he's good at. Following that, the class president reminds everyone that it's been a month since their bus fell, and they found out that they weren't on Earth but a different place. Furthermore, he advises everyone to accept reality and mentions that they were able to survive because everyone awakened some kind of special power. However, Takaya is the only one who never developed any skills, and after hearing this, the other classmates start complaining about him freeloading all the time. Due to this, the president decides to banish Takaya, and with a majority vote, he is officially banished from their class. Nonetheless, he gets told to finish his job, and while dressing the wild boar, he manages to find a magic stone that can be traded for money. As expected, they instantly snatch it away from him and give him a few knives and some money as a parting gift. As Takaya is on his way, the baddest girl of their class, Mizukami, gives him the magic stone he found back and says her goodbyes, hoping everything will be back to normal one day. Afterward, Takaya figures that he won't be able to live for long and decides to spend all his money at once. For that, he visits a nearby town and, after buying some booze, decides to hire an escort. But after finding out that the escort he was about to hire was as freaky as they get, Takaya ended up running away. Ultimately, he loses all hope and cuts himself to end his life. Shockingly, he wakes up to a view of some juicy melons and finds a few people standing in front of him. The girl, who is a priest, introduces herself as Mariel. Their captain introduces himself as Dyke, and the archer of their party lets him know that his name is Roar. Eventually, Takaya tells them the whole story, and after finding out that he's good at processing animals, Roar mentions that it's called fabrication, one of the most respected professions. As the name suggests, fabricators turn beast corpses, flowers, and other things into materials. Roar then notices the confused look on his face and says that the magic stone he's holding should be impossible to obtain for a novice. After taking a closer look at that crystal, Dyke reveals that it's a very rare magic stone that requires at least a level 3 or higher to obtain. Ultimately, they suggest going to their guild to measure his abilities as they are in need of talent like his. Takaya instantly cheers up and agrees to go with them. Before long, they arrive at the main city and pay a visit to their guild. Without wasting any time, they then enter the guild master's room, where the boss, named Rudra, seems to be busy getting whipped by his tiny cross-playing assistant named Faria. Nonetheless, they show her the magic stone, and in order to verify that Takaya is the one who obtained it, Faria decides to examine his abilities. For that, she gives him tree paper, and even after Takaya puts his hand on it, nothing appears. But he gets told to look behind, and to everyone's surprise, a giant tree forms on that paper. Faria informs him that this means he will be able to master all the production and processing systems of the world, and that their guild is lucky to have a man like him. With that being said, they throw him a welcome party, and after enjoying himself, Takaya falls asleep. The next morning, he wakes up to a busty babe standing in front of him who asks him to introduce himself. But when Takaya replies by saying that he will tell her once he's sobered up, she teleports him to the sky and makes him fall into the ocean. After a quick dip in the ocean, she brings him back to his room, where Takaya gets informed that she will be his teacher from now on. Confused, Takaya questions who she is, and at the same time, Rudra and Faria arrive. Faria compliments Takaya's new master, saying that she looks as good as ever. In reply, she praises Faria for finding her such a gem as well. Before long, Mariel appears, asking what they are doing to Takaya, and gets informed that the busty babe in front of her is named Lady Ever, one of the few people in the world with the title of Sage. Rudra also adds that he can't let such an amazing talent go to waste, which is why he asked for her help in developing Takaya's talent. Lady Ever also reveals that she and Rudra are old friends. Puzzled, Takaya mentions that he thought he was going to start a new life with the guild members, to which Rudra replies, commenting on how Takaya was banished from his previous party. Turns out his situation is pretty similar to Rudra's, which is why he wants Takaya to develop his talent and make the people who kicked him out regret their decision. Furthermore, Rudra asks him to make sure he grows under Lady Ever's wing and not to abandon him once he becomes famous. This ends up motivating Takaya, and he decides to train hard and repay everyone for their support. After promising Mariel and the others to join their party once he has gotten stronger, Takaya prepares to leave. With that, Lady Ever makes a portal appear, and using that, the two of them arrive at her house called the Forest of Sage. Still excited, Takaya reassures her that he will take on the training no matter how strict it is, which Lady Ever seems to like, and tells him to choose whichever room he likes. As soon as he enters the house, Takaya is surprised by how pleasant it looks and enters a room, only to find a couple of slimy monsters already present there. Without wasting any time, Takaya runs away, but with each door he opens, he ends up finding some pretty weird creatures inside. Ultimately, he reaches the last room and opens the door, hoping for it to be empty. But to Takaya's surprise, he finds a hottie inside with every bit of her body exposed. Lady Ever mentions that it's her other apprentice and asks Takaya to keep his little commando under control. Nonetheless, he gets slapped in the face and is introduced to that girl by Lady Ever. Additionally, Lady Ever informs Takaya that despite that girl's young age, her curves are immaculate. Hearing this, she warns Lady Ever not to say any further, or that'll be the end of her. Nonetheless, Lady Ever informs Takaya that her name is Tsubakibaru, and she assists her with her studies. Following that, Takaya tries explaining to Tsubakibaru that all the other rooms were cursed, and he had no other choice. Surprisingly, Tsubakibaru replies that she is aware that Takaya meant no harm, and just when he thought that they were on the same page, Tsubakibaru tells him not to get ahead of himself, as she'll never trust the likes of him. In the end, Takaya gives up and questions where he is supposed to sleep, and gets told by Lady Ever that her room is pretty spacious. But for that, he needs to work hard during the day and get ordered to clean the mansion. Everything from cleaning, shopping, cooking, and laundry, Takaya is forced to do everything, and just like that, a month has passed. Eventually, one day Lady Ever calls for Takaya and after examining his body, figures that he's almost level 4. Afterward, she calls Tsubakibaru, and after giving them a bag full of medicine, lets the two know that they will be pairing up to complete a survivor challenge. While Takaya gets excited to finally do some full-fledged training, Tsubakibaru mentions that she doesn't want to do it with a lecher like him. Nonetheless, Lady Ever ignores them and mentions that there are 2 challenges. The first is to brew a potion, and the second is to create a new knife. When Takaya argues that he can't make a knife, Lady Ever lets him know that Tsubakibaru will be the one teaching him. With that being said, she runs away, leaving the 2 behind. Takaya informs Tsubakibaru that he doesn't know how to fight and asks her to protect him, but instead of agreeing, she decides to eliminate him instead. Later that day, Takaya gets chased by a couple of monsters, and after managing to slay them, Tsubakibaru mocks Takaya for being such a useless fellow. Furthermore, she asks Takaya about what he has made with fabrication so far and gets told by Takaya that he has made nothing, but is making sure to read a lot of books to gain knowledge. Annoyed, Tsubakibaru can't believe she has to teach someone like this and lets Takaya know that they will be camping as the sun is about to go down. Once they are settled, Takaya cooks some meat for her and forces her to eat some. Seeing her enjoy it, Takaya becomes cocky and mentions how she should be glad to have a cook around. Just then, Tsubakibaru tells him to be quiet, and soon after, the 2 of them start hearing growls. Tsubakibaru tells Takaya to run back to the mansion and tries fighting the wolf by herself. The wolf manages to pin her down, but she kicks it to get away. Furthermore, Tsubakibaru begins using her true powers, causing horns to appear on her head. Seeing this makes Takaya realize that she is a being beyond humanity, and while he was busy admiring her, the wolf notices Takaya and begins running at him instead. But just as it is about to attack Takaya, the wolf transforms into a girl and falls on top of him. He notices that she is heating up and realizes that this symptom is caused by the poisoning called glebony. However, Tsubakibaru couldn't seem to care less, and when asked if she's not going to help her, Tsubakibaru replies that this is the law of nature and that they can't interfere just because the world ingested some poison. Takaya replies by saying that he was once discarded because of the survival of the fittest, but thanks to Mariel and the others, he survived. This is exactly why he wants the wolf girl to survive, but Tsubakibaru still doesn't agree and ends up walking away. Having no other choice, Takaya begins carrying her on his own, and before long he gets tired and is about to fall when, unexpectedly, Tsubakibaru appears to help him out. She then asks Takaya to call her Akane from now on and mentions that she will be going to find the ingredients for the potion. Once everything is gathered, Takaya works hard to make the recovery potion. Afterward, he takes a sip of it and makes the wolf girl drink it using mouth-to-mouth. The next morning, Akane wakes up, only to find Takaya enjoying the wolf huzz on top of him. Takaya reassures Akane that he was asleep and questions the wolf why she's calling him master. The wolf girl replies that she has always been lonely, sad, and hungry, but the master saved her and made her feel like she wasn't alone. Akane lets Takaya know that he will be responsible for taking care of her, and to start things off, Takaya decides to call her Meek from now on. Later that day, Meek fully recovers, which makes them figure that the potion was a success, and now the only thing left is to create the knife. For that, he begins searching for the iron ore and gets told by Meek that she knows what it smells like. Without wasting any time, she runs away to find it, and when Takaya asks Akane if this can be considered cheating, she lets him know that the mission is not to collect, but to craft. Before long, Meek returns and takes the two of them inside a cave, where a giant sky stone is present. Takaya mentions that it's a precious material they can't handle, and gets told by Akane that there is a sea of iron ore present as well. Thanks to Meek, Takaya now has the chance to practice as much as he wants, and with that being said, the process finally begins. After spending some time with him, Akane starts to understand why Lady Ever paired her with Takaya and believes that she has learned a lot from his kindness. After working day and night, Takaya finally finishes the level 5 knife, and with that, both missions are complete. Takaya then thanks Meek for showing them the way and Akane for her support. Hearing this, she starts to blush and begins yapping mindlessly. Simultaneously, Lady Ever appears and praises Takaya for completing the mission. Afterward, she informs Takaya that he has been nominated for his first job before long. The three of them arrive in the city using Lady Ever's portal. She then questions Takaya if he's planning to go meet the guild master while wearing such an embarrassment of a drip. Meek also adds that he kind of stinks, and Akane advises him to pay attention to his clothing a little more. Thanks to their suggestion, Takaya first gets a low taper fade and then buys a new dress, which promotes him from a 4 to a solid 7. Additionally, Akane mentions that Shirogane will look good on him as well and elaborates that it's the name of the blade he made. With that, they finally arrive at the guild where everyone is present to welcome him. Soon after, Mariel also arrives to greet Takaya and gets shocked after seeing two hot chicks all over him. Nonetheless, Takaya explains that they are his fellow disciples and receives some motivation regarding his first job from her. Ultimately, he greets the customers who want to hire Takaya for his first job. To his surprise, there are two hooded figures, and Faria advises Takaya to be careful, as they are demons from the demon realm. Furthermore, they are high-level demons called enchantresses, and it's possible that a war between humans and demons might start depending on Takaya's attitude. With all the pressure on his shoulders, Takaya asks if they are the ones who nominated him, and one of the hooded figures removes her hood, asking if he's the level 6 creator. She then introduces herself as Mumuru and lets him know that the demon next to her is her caretaker, named Letty. Although Mumuru is one of the 4 heavenly kings who rule the demon realm, she instantly starts bowing in front of Takaya, asking him to create a new magic spear for her. While both Takaya and Lady Ever are shocked to see her bow to a human, Mumuru reveals that if he doesn't make her a new spear, she might die. Apparently, it all started when Letty reminded Mumuru that she was going to be appointed as one of the 4 heavenly kings and advised her to take care of her magic spear instead of binging on Netflix all day. But seeing that Mumuru couldn't care less about all the politics, Letty wondered what her mother might think and let her know that the spear is her family's most prized possession. Mumuru reassures her that it's pretty safe in the closet, but as soon as they take it out, the spear breaks in half, causing both the demons to panic. Having no other choice, Mumuru started begging Letty to make the demon fabricator create a new spear for them, but was told that he had already quit due to all the selfish requests he was getting. At the same time, if they were to take the spear to a demon processing shop, her mother would find out about it. Ultimately, Letty suggested finding someone in the human world. With that, they started looking for a level 6 fabricator and heard Dyke bragging about Takaya. After hearing all this, Faria lets Takaya know that this job is pretty risky, and Lady Ever asks if he's going to let this job make him a renowned person, or will he make an enemy of the demon world, ultimately telling him to make the decision on his own. With her cheeks in the open, Letty tells Takaya that she is willing to give him her everything as contract payment, whether it be money or rare metal. Curious, Takaya questions the reason she is going to such great lengths for Mumuru, and gets told that this magic spear puts not only Mumuru's life on stake, but the existence of the whole family as well. This is why, for the sake of Mumuru's future, she is willing to sacrifice herself anytime. Takaya is moved by her dedication and ends up accepting the job, causing Mumuru to get excited and give him a big hug. However, he then reveals that he is not a level 6 fabricator, causing Mumuru to shout some pretty obscene words. But at the same time, he reassures Mumuru that he knows how to play with the cards he has. Luckily, he seems to have the sky stone that Meek found, and by combining it with his blacksmithing technique, Takaya is confident that this magic spear can be fixed by simply welding it. Seeing a confused look on Mumuru's face, Takaya explains that he will be fixing her current spear instead of making a new one. Lady Ever wonders if it's going to be strong enough, and he reassures her that this welding tech can even make ships that carry humans into space. With that, he asks Rudra to reserve a forge for him, but gets told that he already has a surprise for him. He then takes him to the guild's basement and informs him that the newly renovated workshop will be his to use from now on. Feria mentions that she had to sell Rudra's ring and some of her dresses to afford it, but every time they learn about him, they are confident that they made the right decision. Remembering everything that happened to him in the past, Takaya realizes that this is the place he belongs in for the first time in this world. With that, the process starts, and Takaya asks Akane to prepare the furnace and he's going to melt the sky stone. He then asks Mumuru to give him the spear and notices that it didn't break from age, but from some force that was used on it. Following that, he tells Akane to give him some Rensagok as he needs to combine it with Sky Stone, and when she argues that mixing them together can ruin the Sky Stone, he asks her to believe in him. She ends up trusting him and mixes the two materials together, and using this combination, Takaya ultimately manages to fix the spear. Once he's done, Takaya asks Mumuru to channel her magic into the spear, and to her surprise, it starts working like it did in the past. While it's not back to normal, it's more than enough to keep her mother's eyes off of it. With tears in her eyes, she thanks Takaya for saving her life and is about to discuss the reward when suddenly, both she and Letty notice a slave collar on their necks. Lady Ever then reminds them that they were willing to pay whatever price they wanted, and currently she only has one request, that is for the two of them to become Takaya's slaves. When Takaya tries to argue, he gets told that in business, it's natural to push the limits, and since he has completed a high-risk job, he has the right to take a suitable reward. Mumuru also asks Takaya to accept it, as she is willing to do whatever it takes to protect her family's name. Without giving him a chance to think, Lady Ever begins manipulating Takaya, telling him that he can have women's status and honor, asking what he seeks with his ability. But to everyone's surprise, Takaya mentions that with this power, he wishes to save people from being put in chains and help those who have lost their chance to be happy. His ultimate goal is to abolish the system of survival of the fittest. After his failed attempt to impress the baddies nearby, he gets told by Lady Ever that she was just joking. Furthermore, Lady Ever tells the demons to take the magic spear back to the demon realm, reminding them that they still have to return with the reward. Mumuru thanks Takaya once again, and with that being said, she prepares to leave for the demon realm. However, Letty reveals that she will be working as Takaya's maid at the guild for a while, reminding them that the reward payment includes her as well. Takaya lets her know that he already turned it down, but Letty gently hugs him and lets him know that she is confident in her ability to spot a man with talent. With that being said, she ends up kissing him in front of everyone. A few days later, the townsfolk begin talking about the newly made potion they sell at the guild, which has a good reputation for its purity. They further mention that it's thanks to the newbie fabricator whose name is Takaya. But little do they know that the class president, named Harukawa, is in town and gets informed of Takaya's new adventures. Before long, the potion that Takaya made starts selling like crazy, and thanks to it, the guild that was in trenches before is finally starting to bloom. However, Feria tells Rudra not to put too much pressure on Takaya, and Lady Ever also warns him that even a scratch on her disciple will result in his little guy getting chopped. Rudra gets scared after hearing those threatening words and asks Letty to check up on him, and she lets him know that Takaya has forgotten to eat and sleep because he is too absorbed in his work. Meek also mentions that he is overdoing it and suggests dragging him out. Just then, Mida adds that the perfect candidate for that has arrived, and that turns out to be Mariel and the others. Rudra instantly runs up to her, asking her to drag Takaya out of his workshop and hang out with him. With that, she enters his workshop, asking if he's busy, to which Takaya replies that he'll be done with the final potion soon. However, she reminds him that he promised to join their party once he's independent, but although Takaya isn't against it, he lets her know that he still has his current job to do. But Mariel and the others refuse to listen to him, informing Takaya that this is Rudra's personal quest. Luckily, they manage to make Takaya touch grass after a long time, and Mariel lets him know that even though she was the first one to discover him, he is now surrounded by all those girls, which is why she wants to get to know him better. Dyke takes the signal and makes up an excuse about him having to buy some stuff with Roar. With that, the two of them walk away, leaving Takaya and Mariel on their own. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Mariel grabs his hand and suggests starting their day. But little do they know that Lady Ever is keeping an eye on them using her talisman, and lets the others know that it's her duty as a master to make sure her disciple's first date is a success. The two of them then walk around town, enjoying some food and watching street performers. As they continue walking in the street, Takaya notices the gazes full of jealousy towards him and lets Mariel know that he'd like to go see the ocean. With a smile on her face, Mariel instantly agrees, and seeing this, everyone, including Lady Ever and Feria, is hyped. Once they arrive close to the ocean, Mariel comments on how Takaya has been straining himself lately and asks him to tell her if he has any problems. But instead of dumping his own trauma, Takaya questions the reason Mariel became a priestess. According to her, she always admired the priestess who helped the poor or injured. Takaya finds it pretty amazing, as on the other hand, he is always as helpless as a vegan at a barbecue. However, Mariel says that he overthinks things and informs him that they are currently in the lower districts, where life is more difficult because not everyone is blessed with skills. Even though she always wanted to be a priestess, she is still unable to help anyone who is suffering and was able to save Takaya by a mere fluke. Takaya disagrees, saying that she has a remarkable gift for healing, as after all, she was the one who healed her after he harmed himself back then, and because of that, he is sure that she will be able to save a lot of people in the future. Meanwhile, he couldn't even go against his old party members, who always had him on his knees, no prayers involved. Each time Takaya looks at his wrist, he remembers his past and realizes that he is nothing like Mariel, who carved out her fate. Mariel replies by saying that he doesn't know anything and is about to tell him her true skill when suddenly, someone attacks them, and they barely manage to dodge. It turns out to be none other than Harukawa, the class president. Before he gets the chance to do anything else, both Takaya and Mariel are attacked once again, which knocks them out cold. With that, they take Takaya away while leaving Mariel behind. Soon after, he opens his eyes and finds himself chained up, surrounded by a load of treasure. Harukawa informs him that this is the treasure their class collected and gets asked by Takaya if they stole it. Harukawa replies that he was promised success in life, but all of that has been stolen from him as well, thanks to this other world. So now, he's going to get all the success back that he was supposed to have. Following that, Harukawa mentions hearing about Takaya's talent and says that he can now return to their class and contribute. However, Takaya replies by saying that he has no desire to do anything for people like them, and he is only a fabricator for the Sea Rat Guild. He further mentions that his master is watching everything through the talisman, and there will be people coming to save him. Harukawa lets him know that Takaya never had a place in this world, and his only family is his classmates. Another one of the students asked Takaya to betray the sea rats so they could steal everything they got as well. Harukawa then adds that he has heard about other rare skill wielders in the guild and suggests making them all their slaves. He now wants Takaya to operate from the inside, which will make him the most popular guy in class as well. But to his surprise, Takaya couldn't care less about popularity and mentions that he was always convinced that he was worthless because he was the opposite of Harukawa. But ever since he took a step away from high school life, he found his true value, a place where he belongs. Harukawa argues that the sea rat is only after his talent, to which Takaya replies that someone who treats people like objects will never understand. This ends up annoying Harukawa, and he severs his arm without wasting a second. He then asks Takaya if the sea rat guys will really come to help now that his future as a fabricator has been destroyed. With tears in his eyes, Takaya says that he has fallen pretty low, but Harukawa doesn't seem to care and asks Takaya to tell them the weakness of sea rats as they are going to attack them. Additionally, he promises to take care of Takaya like a pet if he tells him, as it would be hard to survive with only one hand. But to his surprise, Takaya says that it's his turn to return the favor to the sea rats, and because of that, he won't be telling them anything. One of his classmates gets frustrated and prepares to end Takaya's life once and for all when suddenly, they all hear the ground shake, followed by the appearance of Meek and Mariel. It doesn't take long for the monsters Meek brought along to attack, and at the same time, Mariel walks up to Harukawa, saying that she has finally found the person who kidnapped Takaya. Harukawa realizes that they are from the Sea Rat Guild, and the other classmates start to panic, saying that they won't be able to win against the monsters. However, Harukawa tells everyone to calm down, saying that they are just trying to intimidate them with abnormal things. Meanwhile, Mariel asks Meek to deal with Takaya's classmates while she saves the loser who got kidnapped. At the same time, Harukawa reassures everyone that they can win thanks to their sheer numbers, and after believing everything he said, they start blindly running towards Meek. After manipulating them, he asks another classmate to burn the wolf using his magic while it's distracted. But when he mentions that their classmates might get hit by his attack as well, Harukawa gets a bit frustrated. Elsewhere, Mariel runs up to Takaya and decides to give him some medical treatment, but at the same time, another jacked student appears behind her, letting Mariel know that he won't be holding back just because she is a woman. Mariel replies that he might end up dead if he did, and with that being said, the battle between the two commences. As she prepares to fight him head-on, he mocks Mariel for trying to fight even though she is dressed like a priest. Mariel replies by saying that she always wanted to help people, but God gave her the talent to hurt people instead. Nonetheless, that guy charges Mariel to attack her, and while she manages to dodge the weapon, Mariel still gets kicked in the face. But just then, she appears right behind him and kicks him on the back. This puts that guy in a state of confusion as he is sure that he hit her. Mariel then runs towards him once again, and just as he is about to hit her again, she disappears, only to reappear behind him and successfully land another attack. Shocked, he starts to wonder why his attacks aren't hitting her when, according to his visualization, her martial arts skills are level 4 at best. While she deals with him, Dike comes to save Takaya and lets him know that Mariel has a rare skill, one that allows her to fast-forward time just a little bit. Hearing this makes Takaya figure that the sea rat's rare skill wielder must be Mariel, and at the same time, she manages to land several kicks on that dude, resulting in her defeating him. On the other hand, Meek also continues to toss the other students around, but using this as a distraction, Harukawa whips out the cannon and shoots Meek with it. But to their surprise, Meek emerges from the flames unscathed, which makes everyone in their class realize that they don't stand a chance of winning. Furthermore, they suggest abandoning this place and running away, but Harukawa is still sure that they can bring down Meek using some of the level 6 vanguards in their class. Furthermore, he mentions that even if they can stop the monster for a while, they can burn it to death using magic. This makes one of the classmates question if he wants to sacrifice their vanguard, to which Harukawa replies, asking if they don't understand something so simple, and mocks them for being muscleheads. Hearing this makes everyone lose their trust in Harukawa, as they all drop their weapons and raise their hands to surrender. Witnessing this makes Harukawa wonder why this is happening, as he was supposed to be the chosen one, and gets told by Lady Ever that they were simply following him because of his skill. On the other hand, they chose Takaya of their own volition and would do anything for him. Meanwhile, Takaya informs the others that he kept everything about the sea rats a secret, but he won't be able to perform his duties as a fabricator anymore. This makes Lady Ever ask why he goes to such lengths for such stupid things, to which Takaya replies that it's because they accepted a piece of trash like him as their ally. Just then, Dike appears and tells Takaya that he is their hope, and no one can take that future away from them. Following that, he asks for Takaya's hand and uses his healing spell to fully restore it. Mariel then informs Takaya that it was Dike who took care of him back when he harmed himself, and while he doesn't look like it, Dike's a great healer. This makes Takaya figure that Sea Rat's rare skill wielders not only include Mariel, but Dike as well. Dike mentions that he always wanted to be a manly knight, but instead, he was given the power of healing. There was a time when he thought he didn't need a talent that wasn't manly, but Sea Rat still took him on as a knight. Neither he nor Mariel was blessed with a talent they longed for, because of which they lost the place where they belonged. But according to Dike, Takaya has a tremendous gift as he can understand people's pain, and Mariel is sure that his creation skill has the power to change this world. This is why she asks him not to take the entire burden on himself and rely on people when things get hard. With that being said, they all return to the Sea Rat Guild, where everyone is glad to see him unharmed. Once everything is settled, Takaya gets asked about what he is planning to do with his classmates, and to everyone's surprise, he suggests giving them another chance, as it must have been hard for them to leave their homeland so suddenly. However, the girls aren't so merciful and are ready to chop their heads off. Following that, Roar intervenes and says that they are 7 people short, which makes him realize that one of his classmates, Minagawa, isn't here, but he is sure that she must be doing well. But little does he know that she has already betrayed her other classmates, and is now ready to steal Takaya's roots using her void power as well. The next morning, Mariel enters Takaya's room in order to wake him up, only to find him surrounded by 3 sausage-hungry babes who are busy recalling how fun last night was. Without hearing a word, she sprints away at full speed, saying that he already had his fair share of cakes for breakfast. Takaya, with tears in his eyes, tries to let her know that it's a misunderstanding and questions Letty about why she is teasing him as well. Letty replies by saying that Mumuru became one of the 4 heavenly kings because of Takaya, so it's only natural for her to thank him. Annoyed, Takaya gets up and decides to leave the room, but finds Mumuru standing outside with a face more swollen than a Karen who was denied a manager. Seeing this, Letty comes outside running, asking what happened to Mumuru. This causes Mumuru to tear up and beg Takaya to come to the demon realm with her. When he asks her the reason, Mumuru explains that a few days earlier, she was busy celebrating the fact that she became one of the 4 heavenly kings, and that no one was suspecting the fact that her spear was damaged. Thinking about all that reminded her that Letty was enjoying herself with Takaya, which annoyed her to the point that Mumuru decided to go to bed. However, she was stopped by her mother, who questioned if she really planned on putting off her work and going to sleep in peace. Furthermore, her mother told Mumuru to show her the spear and mentioned that the light of the holy sword is leaking faintly from the spear. Having no other choice, Mumuru tried acting dumb and mentioned that no one would be dumb enough to repair it using human technology. But before he could even finish the sentence, her mother struck Mumuru with a sucker punch and ordered her to bring the buyer who fixed it for her. That is why if she were not to bring Takaya to her mother, she'd be in big trouble. Hearing all this makes Takaya think about how Mumuru is his first customer, and his connection to the enchantress will surely benefit the sea rats. But above all, it's for Mumuru's sake, so he's ready to go. Before long, the others arrive as well, and although Rudra agrees to respect Takaya's choice, he refuses to let him go alone. This is because Takaya has a rare level 9 skill, which even in the demon realm is extremely valuable. For that, he will have some of the guild members escort him. But since the interaction between demons and humans must be done in secret, he can't let people in groups like Mariel, Dyke, and Roar enter. Meanwhile, Akane will be taking Letty's place as a receptionist, which only leaves Lady Ever and Meek to act as his escorts. However, Lady Ever apologizes, saying that there will be a meeting of the Council of 6 Sages, and for that, she'd like to bring Meek as her escort. Takaya gets surprised hearing about the other sages, and gets informed that during the battle between humans and demons, the 6 sages formed the vanguard of the humans. While Lady Ever doesn't really want to go, she has a letter with magic infused in it that goes off after a certain time and would send her flying to the council. Takaya is shocked to hear about this letter and mentions that they can make something interesting using it. Lady Ever agrees and says that she can give him as many as he wants, as it'll be a great opportunity for her to flirt with her disciple as well. At this point, Takaya begins to wonder who to choose, and unexpectedly, Faria ends up volunteering. When Takaya gets shocked after hearing this, Faria questions if he thinks she is a tiny girl unable to do anything on her own. With that being said, the 2 of them, including the demons, enter the demon realm through a portal. And as soon as they enter, Letty tells Takaya to cover his mouth as miasma is poisonous to humans. While Takaya figures that he can use miasma to create something as well, Mumuru decides to fly him to her mother's castle. Meanwhile, Letty decides to stay back as they have entered the land of the Zanma demon lord. Zamna's lackeys instantly end up surrounding her, asking what she is doing in their territory. On the other hand, Takaya, along with Mumuru, is forced to hide as well, but due to the strong miasma in the air, Takaya ends up sneezing. This ends up alerting the guards, and having no other choice, Faria asks Mumuru to take Takaya, reassuring her that the 2 of them will be right behind after clearing this place up. With that being said, Letty prepares her dark lightning skill to attack the lackeys, and when asked if they are going to fight, Letty reveals that she is what his ancestors once called a nightmare. Meanwhile, Mumuru manages to safely take Takaya into her territory, where she is greeted by several younglings. Furthermore, they notice the presence of Takaya and question the reason a human is present in the demon realm. Mumuru lets them know that the human is her guest and asks them not to tell anyone. When one of the boys gets confused, his friend reveals what the 2 of them might be planning to do behind closed doors. Just then, Takaya notices one of the girls coughing, and Mumuru decides to take care of her, asking the others to go away. Following that, she makes a snake enter her body to suck the miasma, later informing Takaya that some of the younglings with weak constitutions can't completely handle miasma. Since it's her primary role to protect the young demons as one of the 4 heavenly kings, she always does this. After seeing all this, Takaya requests Mumuru to let him borrow some potatoes and mentions that no one should suffer because of their natural constitution. Afterward, he cuts the potatoes and makes a dust mask using it to prevent miasma from entering their bodies. For the time being, he decides to stock up enough for a couple of weeks, but isn't sure what might happen afterward. Suddenly, 2 demons named Rami and Yami appear, telling Mumuru that her mother has ordered them to bring the two of them to her castle. They then notice the mask Takaya has made and, after finding it quite interesting, decide to take over the production process. The people who start wearing it comment on how the pain is gone, and thanks to it, they won't have to live in fear of miasma anymore. The girl who was coughing before gave Takaya a kiss on the cheek as a thank you gesture, causing Mumuru to realize that her competition just went up. Eventually, they all arrive at the castle, and when Mumuru questions her maid about whether her mother is in a good mood, they straight up disagree. After they enter the castle, Takaya tries his best to encourage Mumuru by saying that he is sure her mother can sense her sincerity, and someone who cares for her people is a true example of a lord. But before he even gets to finish, he sees Mumuru flying and crashing into the wall behind, followed by her mother complaining about her being late. Following that, she introduces herself as Azasha, the former general of the succubi and the mother of Mumuru. Meanwhile, Takaya notices that Mumuru managed to stop the spear using her teeth from stabbing her, and is glad that she's alive. Azasha then mentions that someone like Takaya must be wondering why a beauty like her handed over the title of the 4 heavenly kings to her daughter so early. This is because Mumuru is far more talented than she is, and can draw the power of the magic spear to the maximum. The sole reason she made Mumuru the Empress of Succubi was that she was convinced that she could save the Succubi tribe. However, not only did Mumuru ruin her precious spear, but she also bowed down to a human, which caused her to get kicked again by Azasha for deceiving her mother. Eventually, Takaya intervenes by saying that while he isn't familiar with the skinship of succubi, any further punishment would be too much. Azasha gets furious after hearing this, and after grabbing Takaya by his neck, says that he has no idea how important that spear is to the succubi or how grave a sin it is for a child to deceive her mother. Just then, Mumuru stands up and calls her mother an ugly hag, telling her to take her hands off Takaya. She further mentions that she has been living her life the way Azasha told her, and even though being an empress was a pain, she did it anyway. However, if she were to lay her hands on Takaya, she would no longer be her mother. Azasha replies by saying that she is disappointed, and since the succubi will be perishing under Mumuru's command, she decides to end it all right here. Just as the two of them are about to fight each other, Takaya mentions that he will be creating a new spear, which is why he came to the demon realm in the first place. Azasha informs him that the spear has been passed down in her family for thousands of years, and asks if he can really make something so important. She further mentions that it's impossible for someone so young to look like a fetus. Just then, Letty arrives and informs Azasha that Takaya has the production and processing skills at level 9. Although Azasha finds it hard to believe, she decides to listen to Letty as she is a maid whom Azasha raised to be incapable of lying. Additionally, she agrees to overlook Mumuru's mistake if Takaya were to make a new spear, but in case he fails, she will turn his body into dino nuggets with her own hand. Takaya agrees to her conditions, and with that, the 4 of them are on their way back. Feria compliments him for his bluff to save Mumuru's life, but makes sure to remind Takaya that while his potential is level 9, he is still at level 5 at best. Letty also gives him a hug, advising Takaya to take care of his life. Takaya also apologizes, saying that he made her lie, to which Letty replies that she has learned how lying can be pretty useful sometimes. Lastly, Mumuru also apologizes for making him an accomplice, but he asks her not to worry, as he is sure that Mumuru will be able to reconcile with her mother once they create a new magic spear. This cheers her up, and with that, the 4 of them decide to head over to Mumuru's castle, where he can do whatever he wishes. After arriving at a cliff end, Mumuru uses her spear to summon her castle, and is welcomed by the infinite number of demons who work under her. Seeing this makes Takaya comment on how Mumuru is like an idea in the demon realm. Meanwhile, Letty notices a banner and asks one of the demons about it. They let her know that Mumuru ordered them to learn these words because she brought an important person along, and that the words were for her future husband. But before those poor souls even get the chance to utter these words, Mumuru kicks the life out of them and reassures everyone that it was nothing. Following that, Mumuru decides to show them the guest room, to which Letty agrees, saying that she should show her future husband around. Once they are settled, Feria lets Takaya know that his alchemy skill is not leveled up enough to create a magic spear, as it's a skill of combining items to create rare materials. She then asks Mumuru about what the spear is made of, to which she replies, saying that it's made of dark matter. This makes them realize that their first step is to obtain dark matter and decide to get on it tomorrow. Letty then asks what they should do about the room assignment and decides to take Takaya with her. But this results in a fight between her and Mumuru, resulting in Feria deciding to share her room with Takaya instead. In the end, they all decide to sleep together, and in the middle of the night, Takaya tries waking Mumuru up but fails. Luckily, Letty notices him and starts taking off her clothes to fulfill his naughty needs. But Takaya lets her know that it's not that, and he needs to use the bathroom. Before long, Takaya finishes up but forgets the direction he came from. Just when he is about to panic, a demon appears behind him, almost causing Takaya's soul to leave his body. The demon informs him that he's on patrol and gets told that Takaya lost his way to the guest house. To his surprise, the demon replies by saying that he is also lost. Nonetheless, Takaya decides not to be scared of this situation as the new him is filled with curiosity towards the unknown. After walking for a bit, Takaya ends up slipping and falling onto the ground. After getting on his feet, he feels grateful that no one saw him when, unexpectedly, someone mentions that it would have been awful if the girl he likes saw him. Without thinking much, Takaya replies by saying that if Mumuru or Letty were to see him, they would have laughed at him. He then realizes that someone is lurking in the shadows and that someone turns out to be a slime creature in the shape of a human. When Takaya questions who he is, he replies that he is just a passing slime and wonders what Takaya is doing here. After introducing himself, Takaya informs him that he was invited by Mumuru, which the slimes find surprising as he didn't know. Nonetheless, the slime asks Takaya if he has some free time and decides to show him around. Apparently, this castle is like his garden, and hearing all this makes Takaya curious about just who this slime really is. Before long, he invites Takaya to a room that looks like a study, and there, the slime mentions that he has never had a guest from the human world before. Additionally, he shows Takaya one of his books, letting him know that he needs the feedback of a human. After taking a look at that book, Takaya realizes that it's a manga and gets questioned by the slime about whether it will sell well in the human world. Apparently, the story is about a lonely demon king who was blessed with natural talent and was arrogant enough to think he could get anything he wanted. It didn't take long for him to rule the world, but slowly, all his minions started leaving him, and ultimately he died a lonely death. However, he regretted his actions at the time of his death and was reincarnated into a new world as a human. Once Takaya finishes reading it, the slime asks if he thinks it's interesting. But Takaya asks if it was really necessary to add such obscene moments with chicks having greater curvature than spacetime. The slime replies by saying that it's only natural, as adding such scenes is a source of creativity. Takaya argues that it doesn't mean he has to spend 20 pages on such scenes, and just like that, the two continued talking about his manga. Before long, they notice that it's almost dawn and the slime promises to send Takaya on his way as promised. Takaya lets him know that he enjoyed their time together when, suddenly, the castle starts shaking violently. Takaya wonders if it's an earthquake, and the slime tells him not to go to his room, as a certain guy might be looking for him. But before he leaves, Takaya questions who the slime really is, and he agrees to tell Takaya everything if he survives. With that, he says his goodbyes to Takaya and teleports him to the bedroom where the girls are also present. When they ask where he had been, Takaya replies by saying that he was on the top floor. Faria reminds everyone that they don't have time to listen to stories when suddenly, the castle starts to collapse. Mumuru notices an incoming attack and asks everyone to get down. This attack blows away the upper portion of the castle, leaving the four of them exposed. Apparently, the one behind this attack is none other than Zanma, the demon general. When Takaya inquires about the reason he is storming into her castle and destroying it, Zanma reminds Mumuru that she is the one who stated that misfits can't be reasoned with. Furthermore, he points towards his comrade, the same one who was bullied earlier by Letty and Faria. Seeing this makes Mumuru tell Letty that she was supposed to take care of them. While Letty is sure that she erased his memories with Takaya's potion, she wasn't sure if he was still alive and figured that some other demon might have seen them. Nonetheless, Letty apologizes and gets told that it doesn't matter, as she had to end things with Zanma sooner or later. With that, Mumuru asks Zanma what he wants, and he shamelessly tells Mumuru to become a bride as the Queen of Demons. This is how he plans to make Mumuru pay for hurting his people. Luckily, Letty intervenes, saying that this won't happen and tells Mumuru that it's absolutely ridiculous. She further mentions that this is all a plot by the demon Lord Zanma. He replies by mocking Letty for imagining such things, being a low-level demon, and asks if she lost her mind after going to the human world. Scared, Mumuru mentions that if she were to sacrifice herself, the succubi race might be lost, to which Letty agrees and tells Mumuru that she will be protecting her with her life. With that being said, Letty tells Zanma never to come here again. Simultaneously, Faria appears right above him with her weapon and prepares to attack him with her skill named Storm Helix. While he manages to dodge most of the arrows she shoots, one of them ends up piercing him. Letty then joins the battle and begins attacking Zanma with the help of Faria. She then asks Mumuru to do her job, and using this open window Letty created, Mumuru throws her spear towards Zanma and manages to stab him right in the chest. But to their surprise, Zanma easily gets up and removes the spear from his body. Following that, he takes out a weapon of his own and forces the girls to get away. Faria wonders if there is a secret in his magic, and Mumuru lets her know that every heavenly king has a special weapon. Now, they have no other choice but to uncover the weapon's secret in order to defeat it. Seeing that Zanma is prepared to attack both Zanma and the others, Mumuru asks Letty to take them to her mother. When Letty tries to argue, Mumuru mentions how it's a pity, as Takaya was just about to make her a new spear. Additionally, she asks them not to worry as Zanma is only after her humongous honkers, and it's not like she's going to die. Lastly, she hands Takaya a material, asking him to use it when making the spear, as once she is married, Azasha will return to the 4 heavenly kings. Nonetheless, he still refuses to agree but gets told by Letty to stop yapping as his ranting could overturn the situation. As he sees Mumuru being taken away, Takaya can't help but be disappointed in himself for not having the talent to save his friends. However, he still refuses to lose hope and promises to make a spear for Mumuru, one worthy of her gentle heart. After arriving at Azasha's castle, Letty gets slapped by her, who then complains about how the demon general had been looking for a chance like this for a long time. She further mentions that since some demons are unable to live in the demon world, the succubi tribe had always been taken advantage of and overrun by other races. However, Azasha still manages to win the battle and become independent to achieve a kingdom where all races can live freely. This is the sole reason she trained her daughter and made her reach this far. Faria intervenes, saying that there must be some time before Mumuru makes her marriage to Zanma official, and Takaya also decides to make her a new spear with which she can defeat him. While Azasha trusts and understands his idea, she lets him know that not even demons understand the construction of this spear, as it was made thousands of years ago. Dark matter is a legendary material that is invisible and has no mass, so how will Takaya even melt it? Before Takaya gets the chance to reply, the skeleton named Michael appears, saying that he might be able to help. When Faria asks how a skull can even be of help, Michael lets her know that he has a lead they could follow. Azasha intervenes, telling Takaya that if Mumuru's and Zanma's child is born, the succubi race will end, and the weak will be cut down. Furthermore, she asks if he's really prepared to take it on, to which Takaya agrees, saying that he promised Mumuru to help. Afterward, they return to the destroyed castle, where Takaya asks Michael if he found any leads. Luckily, he manages to find an item, and after informing them that someone called Wurg would have answers, asks others if they have something that can draw his spirits in. Faria comes in clutch and gives Takaya her teddy bear, which makes him mention how adorable her hobby is. Eventually, Wurg's spirit enters the teddy bear and takes over its body, disappointing Faria, as something that was once a cutie now has the voice of a military officer. Michael then asks Wurg if he recalls anything, and asks him about the hidden room he ended up in once. Apparently, it's the oldest area of the castle, existing long before Mumuru herself. Hearing this brings tears to Wurg's eyes, as he always hoped his blunder would be of some use to everyone. With that being said, they all enter the castle and start searching for that room. Before long, they run into a demon wearing a maid's dress who introduces herself as Mary, letting them know that she has been assigned by her lord to guard this room. Letty asks her to let them pass as Mumuru is in grave danger, but to their surprise, Mary doesn't even seem to know who Mumuru is. Letty starts getting furious, and when Takaya tries to calm her down, Mary ends up hearing his name. She then mentions that her lord instructed her to cooperate with a human named Takaya if he were to arrive, and thanks to that, they are allowed to enter the room called the Underworld Archive. Takaya is shocked to see that there was a massive archive under that study, and is informed by Mary that her lord's archive includes the entire history of the underworld, and gives Takaya permission to use anything he desires. The first thing he asks Mary is if there's any record of when the demon spear was created. Mary replies by saying that the hammer and the books used in the forging process are stored here, which makes Takaya realize that he can use them to recreate Mumuru's spear. Furthermore, he questions the reason Mary's master is letting him do all this, but she doesn't seem to have a clue, and informs Takaya that her master said it's not fair to favor one side over the other. Nonetheless, Takaya decides to focus on making the spear for now, as he is sure that he and the slime will be seeing each other once everything is over. Eventually, he manages to find the book that contains details about the spear, and is shocked by how much detail is recorded. After reading it carefully, Takaya finds out that he will need an undead dragon's breath, and Letty talks about how she can't just let Takaya risk his life for something like this. However, Takaya lets her know that they have come this far and he is willing to take the risk. Remy also adds that undead dragons are considered a threat to demons as they are one of the mightiest disasters. They lose all reason and run amok, destroying castles. This is why it's considered dangerous to venture out in the underworld. Takaya questions if by destroying castles, she means the castle they are in now. Suddenly, they all hear a loud roar, and it turns out to be the undead dragon they were just talking about. Without wasting a second, they run towards the balcony and notice a giant dragon flying over them. Before they get down to business, Faria gives Takaya a letterhead that can teleport him away from the underworld, as the guild will never permit him to put his work before his life. Following that, Letty asks Takaya to stay behind and warns him not to breathe the rotting mist the dragon spews because it's toxic. With that being said, the demons charge the dragon, and while they do, Takaya asks Feria to attack it while the demons have its attention and cut the organ that the demon uses as its pilot light. Simultaneously, Wurg also comes running with a bottle to collect the pilot light. Meanwhile, Letty and the others start to attack the dragon, but it seems to be resisting, not showing its pilot light that easily. On the other hand, a mosquito lands on Takaya's neck and bites him. Feria asks if something is wrong, and at first, Takaya dismisses it, but soon after, his whole body starts feeling weak and numb. Following that, they notice a ton of similar mosquitoes flying around the dragon. Apparently, since the demons have a great advantage in speed and power, the dragon takes it away using these insects. Having no other choice, Letty and the others end up getting away from the dragon. Takaya notices that the poison of those mosquitoes isn't too much of a hassle to deal with. Furthermore, he asks Remy and Yami what they can do if the threat of mosquitoes is eliminated. Both the girls reply by saying that there's no method of fighting off the swarm of mosquitoes, as such is the truth established many millennia ago. Nonetheless, Takaya gets to work and decides to make a potion that can eliminate the bugs. For that, he pulls out a material he brought from the human world, which is a poisonous mushroom. His plan is to use Feria's wind magic to spread the potion, which will give them the chance to go head-to-head with the dragon. But before he even gets the chance to create the potion, the swarm of mosquitoes starts heading towards them. Just in time, Michael and Wurg manage to divert its attention, reassuring Takaya that his main body resides in his crown. As expected, it doesn't take long for the dragon to turn Michael into ash, but luckily, Wurg manages to save the crown where his main body resides. In the meantime, Takaya locks in to prepare the potion, and before long he's done. Takaya then asks the demons to put the incest repellent on their bodies, and after doing so, all three of them fly into the swarm of mosquitoes. To their surprise, they start clearing a path for the demons, which gives them hope that it can work. While the others manage to restrict the dragon's movement, Letty throws the potion towards the dragon. Feria uses this chance to use her bow and arrow skill to break the potion bottle. This covers the dragon's body with the potion, eventually eliminating all those mosquitoes. Following that, Feria uses another one of her skills called the Fairy's Ballista to attack that dragon and create a hole in its chest. In a state of anger, the dragon opens its mouth to attack, giving them the perfect chance to gather the material. Instantly, both Letty and Takaya fly towards the dragon. After entering the dragon's mouth, Takaya uses his dagger to take a little slice of that dragon's breath. Ultimately, they manage to collect some in the bottle and get out of there safely. Letty praises Takaya for doing a good job, while he asks Mumuru to wait just a little longer for him. After returning to the workshop, Feria puts a bandage on Takaya's hand because of the burns he received, and with that, he decides to get started. But as soon as he grabs the hammer, Takaya's delicate hands start to hurt. To his surprise, Letty offers to help and distribute the help, and seeing this, Feria joins in as well. Meanwhile, both Remy and Yami mock Takaya for calling himself a blacksmith who can't even hold a hammer, but since this is for Mumuru's sake, they decide to help as well. At first, Takaya made a large version of the furnace Akin taught him and lit it up using the dragon's breath. The old and broken spear starts to melt and turns into its original state. With that, Takaya begins striking it with his hammer and realizes that this is what dark matter feels like. After hitting it for a while, Letty advises him to take a break, but he refuses. It doesn't take long for Takaya to eventually create a new spear, surprising everyone, including Remy and Yami, who were mocking him earlier. But to their surprise, Takaya tosses it into the fire, as this was just a test that proves that the blueprint is right. Now they just need to repeat the process until he levels up to level 8. With that, Takaya continues working hard on making the spear while remembering everything he has been through. Ultimately, they are able to construct the spear Takaya had in mind, and decide to call it Triuval. At the same time, Azasha appears in the workshop as well, informing the others that she got a letter from Zanma, where he informs her that the cheek-clapping ceremony will be taking place today. Azasha further mentions that she won't be able to help due to her position and asks the twin maids to take care of her daughter. With that, they all decide to head to Zanma's castle, but before he leaves, Mary gives him a letter from her master in which he wishes Takaya good luck. On the other hand, Mumuru, who is imprisoned, gets informed that the ritual will be starting soon, and before long, she is forced to head outside where several demons are gathered to witness it. Mumuru stands there in despair when suddenly, she hears Takaya's voice, who informs Mumuru that he brought the new spear as promised. Zanma finds his arrival pretty interesting and praises Takaya for being different than an average human. Furthermore, he tells Mumuru to take the spear and fight him in perfect conditions, as before, she didn't even have a spear. Meanwhile, Takaya walks up to Mumuru, and after apologizing for what he's about to do, Takaya ends up kissing her in front of everyone. Turns out he used it to distract the demons, and wants to use this time to explain his plan to Mumuru. Once he's done telling her the plan, Zanma mentions how he didn't know she had such a close relationship with a human and asks if she has finished saying goodbyes. When Mumuru tries to insult him, Zanma mentions that he will break her spear 3 times. Hearing this, Takaya informs Takaya that everything is going according to plan. Meanwhile, Letty and Faria start praising Takaya for unlocking level 1 intimacy in front of everyone, but with a sad expression on his face, he reveals that Mumuru will lose, asking Remy and Yami if he's right about that. When Faria asks Takaya what he means by that, he replies by saying that the whole conflict has been going according to Zanma's way because both Remy and Yami are connected to him and working as spies. The first time he noticed it was when the spear broke when it was brand new, and the second time, they got ambushed at the secret transfer location. But the thing that confirmed it was when all 5 of them were making the new spear, and the reason it was completed at the same time as Zanma's wedding invitation was due to the fact that Remy and Yami were adding the level that Takaya was lacking at that time. Turns out the 2 of them also have the fabrication skill, and made a lot of changes to the spear to make sure Zanma would win, and the trick that would break the spear with 3 hits. When Letty finds it hard to believe, Remy and Yami end up agreeing with what Takaya said. On the other hand, Mumuru lets Zanma know that his plan was exposed by Takaya, and before they start, she questions the reason Hell gained peace after the ceasefire with the human world. Zanma replies by saying that the reason Hell didn't let the humans lose is because it got weak. According to him, their ancestors had a strong military and high technology. The strong demons ruled the country while the succubus protected the family, but due to the succubus's appeal, the perfect system was destroyed. As that was a grave mistake, he now wants to restore Hell to its prime time. Mumuru mocks him, saying that nothing about Zanma is strong as his strength comes from the decoration he got from his parents. Zanma lets her know that he doesn't care as his mission is to engrave his name in history, and the first step will be this fight. With that being said, the fight between the 2 begins, and instantly Zanma attacks, sending Mumuru flying and crashing into a wall. On the other hand, Letty questions the reason those 2 betrayed them, and they reply by saying that they possess a strong power that is nothing comparable to Azasha or Mumuru. But still, they have to live like maids and don't want their kids to live the same life. Zanma promised to give them a position that matches their power if they cooperate with him. Letty replies by telling them that they chose the wrong path, as Mumuru has all the qualities that future succubi need. Since she believes in her, taking care of Mumuru, who carries her dream, is her pride as a maid. However, those 2 still fail to believe in Letty and are sure that a disappointment like Mumuru can't do much. Meanwhile, Mumuru gets back up and continues the fight, but after getting hit by his kick, she crashes onto the ground. He then mentions that succubi can't surpass a demon and asks her to let demons rule while succubi quietly stay at their own place. However, Mumuru still gets back up, saying that she won't be restrained and will keep fighting back. Filled with rage, Mumuru begins attacking Zanma with her spear, and after exchanging a couple of blows, her spear ends up breaking. Everyone starts cheering for Zanma while he gains even more confidence. Suddenly, he notices his hand acting differently and wonders what is going on. Apparently, Takaya not only found details about Mumuru's spear in the book, but also about Zanma's weapon. He learned that Zanma's weapon had the ability to suck the power of enemies and gain an immortal regeneration ability. Even though Remy and Yami tried adding a trick to the spear, so did he. Takaya acted like he was just leveling it up, but in reality, he added the world's most deadly poison and rubbed it as much as he could on the spear. Due to the pain, Zanma is forced to let go of his weapon, and now he has to fight Mumuru unarmed. With that, Mumuru runs towards Zanma, and in a state of panic, he tries stabbing her with his secondary weapon. But to his shock, Mumuru stops it with her teeth and prepares to counterattack. At the same time, Zanma tries punching her as well. While she manages to dodge his punch, Mumuru's punch lands on his chest. Since it's not enough to take him down, Zanma suggests fighting each other until one of them is down, but Mumuru replies by saying that she is not planning to play his game. Zanma then notices a letter stuck to his chest, the same one Takaya was given to use in case of emergency. Soon after, the letter transports Zanma to a place where all 6 sages are present. Lady Ever informs the others that this is the doing of her students, who exposed his lies, and begins bragging about them. Furthermore, she asks the Princess Knight to deal with Zanma, who complains by saying that her requests are always so sudden. In the meantime, Zanma loses his cool and tries attacking them, but with a single slash, she cuts him down and mentions that his punishment for going against the ceasefire is death penalty. On the other hand, Mumuru informs the crowd that Zanma is dead, and if anyone has an objection, they are free to come forward. One of them informs Mumuru that they will be mourning until they decide on the next leader, to which Mumuru replies, saying that not all demons are like monsters, and one day, she believes they all can live equally. With that, they return home, where Azasha praises Mumuru for being worthy of 4 heavenly kings. When she tries acting all high and mighty, Azasha reminds her that most of the work was done by that human, and tells Takaya that his work is not done until he finishes up the new spear. Mumuru then comments that she hated the idea of becoming a succubi princess at first, but now, after traveling the human world, she has realized that there's a lot to change. Azasha is glad to hear that and informs everyone that Remi and Yami's punishment is to be executed. Before they go away, Takaya asks if helping him make the mask was also a lie, to which they reply by saying that they were happy to save people's lives using their skill. Later that day, they all enjoy having a party together, and the demon girls start fighting over Takaya. He decides to take a restroom break. On his way back, he runs into Azasha, who informs Takaya that she just executed the maids she raised with love since they were little, and says that Mumuru's hand might be covered with blood someday as well. This makes her ask Takaya if the perfect goal she is pursuing even has the desired outcome. Takaya lets her know that since he is a processor, he always imagines what he wants to make, and as long as he can imagine, there isn't anything he cannot make. He then reassures Azasha that Mumuru is surely creating the future Azasha imagines. Elsewhere, the slime is watching Takaya from afar and mentions that he let Takaya borrow the warehouse, guided the dragon, and gave him the 6 sage meeting subordinate. Even with all this, Takaya's chance of winning was 10%, but he still won. This makes him believe that maybe they can entrust Takaya with the world. Do you think the slime will reveal his true form to Takaya? Comment, Fabrication, if you'd like a part 2 of this series. As usual, thank you for tuning in and we'll catch you in the next one.